I'm honored to read to you our call to conscience, commitment, and action. In 1967, Martin Luther King said, and I quote, "We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. This is no time for apathy or complacency. This is time for vigorous and positive action," end quote. There comes a time when women, men, youth, and children, people of all races, religions, ideological and moral commitments must act. On this day, when Martin Luther King Jr. is celebrated, we call on Philadelphians in the thousands to unite in action to transform the rapidly deteriorating conditions of the life of our people. Martin Luther King was a man of action in the causes of human rights, civil rights, labor rights, and world peace. He believed that ordinary people, working people, the poor, women, and the racially oppressed were, in the end, the authors of justice. And if our nation and city are to be saved, we must recognize what King called the fierce urgency of now, and that time waits for no one. Philadelphia is more divided along race, class, and gender lines than at any time in recent memory. We are two cities, one of privilege and wealth, the other of poverty, police brutality, low and poverty wages, collapsed schools, and collapsing neighborhoods. Yes. Of America's 10 largest cities, we are the poorest. Close to 70% of our citizens live in or very near poverty. Our children suffer the most, and far too many are wrapped in lives of misery and hopelessness. Our streets are filled, tragically, with the homeless, hungry, and destitute. As a nation, we spend more on prisons, police, and the military than on schools, eliminating poverty, providing jobs with living wages and homes. As a nation, too many value our dogs over the lives of black young people. We are witness to the grotesque spectacle of black and brown people murdered in our streets by police, while many of our fellow citizens look the other way, and those who run the court system find murderers in blue innocent. Such a nation lives religious hypocrisy, social decadence, and a moral lie. Any honest examination of the life of our city proves how far we are from the standard of human freedom declared in the nation's founding document, the Declaration of Independence. Rather than human freedom, we witness a colossal human tragedy and a human rights emergency. The recovery of standards of human dignity demand that everyone who loves this city and country take a hard look at the situation and ask, what must I do to change this situation? Great achievements must begin somewhere, and they always begin when people look tragedy in the face and ask, what can I do, and decide to act. If we are not capable of this examination, we may yet become one of the most distinguished and monumental failures in the history of nations. As a city, a nation, and a people, we must ultimately recognize we are all wrapped in a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects us all indirectly. It is time to break the silence about what Dr. King called the triple evils: racism, poverty, and militarism. These forms of violence, indeed terror, exist in a vicious cycle, deteriorating hope, progress, and opportunity as a result of humankind's depravity towards its own. Now is the time. We are the ones. We, the people, are the leaders we have waited for. We are compelled to speak truth to power and say to the powerful and the powerless, enough is enough. To our elected officials, we demand an end to empty promises when you run for office and service to the rich and privileged while in office. To the banks, universities, real estate developers, gentrifiers, and others that profit from our poverty and misery, we say you will be held accountable to the people of this city. To those who refuse to pay their fair share of taxes to help fund our schools, we assure you change is on the way. To the Philadelphia Police Department, we declare we intend to hold you to democratic, humane, and anti-racist standards in your relations with Black and brown communities. It is time for change. It is time for Black, brown, and poor communities to realize political and economic power, to change conditions that shape their lives and communities. But most of all, it is time that we transform the structure of institutions, the foundations of our communities and our values.